Hello, folks. Just a couple of ticks away from the start of the Buddy Martin Show. On a Tuesday night, we got a really good show for you tonight. You won't want to miss this one. Cole Cubelic, one of the great analysts for offensive line, joins the program. Our regular Tuesday night guests, our buddy David Whitley. Loren's got trivia to give away, prizes from Spurriers. We got a practice report from our buddy Kyle Curtis. Coming your way right now. Tell your friends and neighbors the Buddy Martin Show is on the air right here on Facebook and YouTube. Come enjoy it.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ? I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Evening, folks. Welcome to the program. I'm Buddy Martin. We're heard 4 nights a week, sometimes in the daytime. Soon to be 5. We're adding a 5th with Urban Meyer on the best Fridays in football. Glad to be with you tonight with a special guest, Cole Cubelic. When you want to get down in the trenches and talk about what happens up front, this guy knows his stuff. He'll be joining us in just a moment. And as we check in here on Buddy Martin Show on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, folks. That's where we're going, YouTube, and, of course, here on Facebook Live. We'll start off the program in just a moment with Cole, but first, happy birthday to my daughter, Laurie. Big birthday for her today. Good day when the Rays are up 5-0 on the Yankees. I mean, they're going to beat them again. They sweep the Yankees in New York. Those Rays are amazing. And and you'll hear a good story tonight. We don't have the sound bite, but Justice Boone, the player on the defense for Florida, has a terrific story about how he got his name, Just Us, Justus. We'll talk to Loren Meadows. He's got stuff to give away. So let's get right with the program right now. Let's go right to our friend Cole Cubelic. This guy knows his stuff. He had a lot to say about the offensive line of the Florida Gators as well and the coaches. Here's what he had to say.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him.
He didn't say that. Come on, buddy. He wasn't singing, was he? No. Pleasure. Welcome back to the show. Cole Cubelic, probably the premier authority on offensive line play, I think, in the SEC, maybe among the best in college football. He, of course, teams up with that other guy. What's his name? That quarterback guy, McElroy or something like that, on the show each morning. Good to see you, Cole. It's hard to get that microphone from him, man, I tell you.
I've gotten used to it. I got Jordan Rodgers on the weekends, McElroy every morning, so I have become accustomed to allowing those quarterbacks to do their thing. I know how it is.
You know how divas act as quarterbacks. You know, I was one in high school, I know. So, hey, I want to get right to it on the program tonight. Thank you for doing the show. I'm interested to learn about offensive line play, and particularly because of the Florida Gators this year, who, according to all sources, have a really good offensive line, albeit a little short on depth. But the takeaway I've gotten from people like Shane Matthews and stuff at practice, these guys are big. And obviously, Billy Napier is putting a big emphasis on offensive line play, and he wants to run the football.
Yeah, that's what they're always going to do. I think controlling the line of scrimmage on both sides of the football, but he's going to be what Billy wants to do. He's not going to get away from being a physical football team. He understands that you can control the tempo of games, stealing possessions, obviously playing keep away, and then being able to set up explosive plays down the field. He just understands the value in that. So, and they have a scheme that's fairly offensive line friendly. It's not one that puts you in a ton of difficult situations. Now, none of it's easy. but there are some in which you can work together a little bit more if you figure out the technique and the fundamentals of it that can help you. They're going to run a lot of stretch play. They're going to use a lot of visual deception with tight ends coming across the line of scrimmage back behind those guys. They're going to use some motions to try to get people misaligned. They're going to formation you. And then off that stretch play, they'll bootleg, they'll play action. You'll get some quarterback read plays, whether it's RPO or plays that they can keep. So I think it's a quarterback-friendly and an offensive lineman-friendly offense, because when you can run the ball and they're going to be dedicated to it, that makes your job easier because you're going to get play action. Guys aren't going to be teeing off on hopefully a lot of 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12s. So that's who they are. That's why basically has 2 offensive line coaches with Rob and Darnell. He wants to make sure that they maximize their reps. And I love coaches that are going to that. You don't see that everywhere. But what it allows you to do is in practice, instead of like I did it a long time ago, where we would go, okay, left tackle, left guard, center, right guard, right tackle. Okay, second team, left tackle, left guard, center, right guard, right tackle. Or sometimes we'd go off with the GA, but the coach never really trusted the GA. Now Darnell can say, okay, I'm taking left side, and he can take the backup center, and Rob will take the right side. Or one could take first team, one could take second team. However you want to do it, you're maximizing your repetitions in practice with the way it's been broken down now, and the lack of, I was going to say the amount of contact, which is technically the lack of contact that you really have. You've got to maximize your practice time and your reps.
I've been saying this. I'm not an X's and O's guy, obviously, as a sports writer, but I had this theory, and I've been saying it all summer, acting like I knew what I was talking about. But my theory is that, if you're not great at throwing the football, obviously, like some teams have been in Florida, but if you've got the personnel, they're using 11 personnel, I believe. If you've got the personnel and the running backs and the offensive line, and you can run the football, I know this is the thing after your own heart. When you run the football, you control the game. Now add the shortened clock, okay? It's a shorter clock now because it doesn't stop like it used to. And now you're keeping not only yourself keeping the ball, but you're keeping your defense off the field. And Lord knows Florida needs that. And they've got the running backs, obviously, ETN, and they've got the personnel. And now the big question was Graham Mertz. And all I'm getting back from people, I had Urban Meyer on the show last week. I talked to Shane Matthews and different people who talked to coaches. And Mertz kind of got a bad rap at Wisconsin and was a highly recruited guy, as you know. And so now I'm not saying this is a world beater combination, or they're going to challenge Georgia. But I don't know. It seems to me 5.5 wins is a little bit low for this team.
Yeah, the schedule is filthy. I don't know another way around that. I can't make it sound good. I can't make it sound nice. I mean, it's just it is a nasty schedule. But I do agree with you, especially with Montrell and ATN, that 1-2 punch of one a little bit more of a grinder. I think Montrell Johnson's vastly underrated as far as just SEC running backs. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying that Rocket Sanders isn't incredible or I think Quinshon Judkins is the best back returning in college football. But for what they want to do, Montrell is fantastic. And it does allow you to set up a lot of different things. And you mentioned it. We're looking at between 8 to 12 fewer plays per game this year. How many touchdowns is that going to be off the board? How many first downs is that going to be off the board for certain teams? And so, the game's going to shorten up a little bit. If you can go even further to shorten it, it gives you big advantages. I asked Billy at media days, buddy, I just said, you can't win coming off that spring game because the perception of it to the fans was that it was miserable. So you almost had to come out and say, oh yeah, we're going after all these guys in the portal. This is unacceptable. We got to get a new kid. But I saw some things that I liked when you really dive into the spring game.
Like what? What did you like?
I liked his accuracy on the move. I liked his decision making. Now, listen, we can sit here and talk about yards and touchdowns and all that, buddy, but I don't want my quarterback, taking strip sacks for touchdowns. Mm-hmm. I don't want him throwing interceptions when he's getting pressured. When he does get a free runner and the offensive line or the backs don't pick it up, I want him to throw the ball away. I don't want to live in 3rd and 10 or 2nd and 12. Get rid of the ball. We'll live to fight another day. And he actually talked about his QBR in that game. He told me it was 114, 142. I can't remember what he said. But he said, that's winning football for us. Now, are there a lot of stuff that needs to be cleaned up? Yeah, there was. But there were also a couple ugly drops in that game that he put right on the money and in some pretty tough situations. So I know for a fact Wisconsin did not want him to leave. They tried to keep him, and they thought that he could be successful with what they were going to do. And we've seen him be successful before. So it's going to come down to Coach Napier and that staff of just finding ways to make him comfortable, putting him in good situations. And like I said, it can be a very quarterback-friendly offense, but a lot of it's predicated on whether or not that run game gets going.
Interesting. Urban Meyer told me that he talked to Paul Chris about what went wrong for Graham Mertz. Urban, who also wanted him at Ohio State. And he said his supporting cast wasn't that good. And that'll be a factor, too. Well, I want to spend the whole time talking about the Gators. I want to talk about more global things like, how about those Auburn Tigers? My gosh, a couple of 5-stars snatched away there. What's going on with Hugh Freeze, man?
I think, buddy, what you're seeing right now, and I'm not going to pretend like when I was 2 or 3 years old that I had an idea of how the administration was operating in Auburn Athletic Department, but since I've paid attention to it and I've known about it, this is the best alignment inside that building that I've ever seen. This was a coach that a lot of the power brokers would have handpicked that wanted the previous time around, have wanted for a long time. The folks that are running Auburn's NIL collective on to victory are human beings, to be honest with you, buddy, that are probably way too smart to be handling college football, college athletics, NIL situations. They should be doing something a lot more important than that to help us all on this planet. But they got great people running that. The fans are obviously now engaged again. There is nothing behind the scenes trying to get a guy out or prevent a guy from being successful. There's no rumors that are being handed over to message boards. It's aligned. And, you know, Brian Kelly kind of made that phrase or that statement, that word famous when he took that LSU job about a year and a half ago. And it's probably a word that we all should have been using for a long time because it makes perfect sense. But now, I mean, they sold out their season ticket allotment. You saw what he did in the portal. I mean, Coach Freeze and his staff, just in the portal since he's been hired, they went out and got the best quarterback on the team, probably the 2 best tackles on the team, maybe the 3 best offensive linemen on the team. They're going to have at least 3 starters out of the portal. They got the best nose guard on the team, the best tight end on the team, the 2 best receivers on the team, the 2 best off-the-ball linebackers on the team, the best edge rusher on the team, and probably another edge defender that's going to play on first and second down. So he took the talent level and upgraded it significantly. That doesn't mean you're going to win 10 games. It doesn't mean you're going to win 6 games.
Not with that schedule. He's got a brutal schedule.
You get Georgia and Alabama. That's and LSU. That's 3 national championship contenders. It's kind of like what we said about Florida. I mean,
right.
They got Florida State on there, and you got Georgia on there. Like it's a lot. So
LSU.
It's but it I think what he's done is he has ignited the fan base. He's generated a lot of excitement. He is someone that just understands how to get in that room with a recruit, with the parents, talk the talk. I couldn't believe people at Media Days, buddy, were surprised that he went in and kind of smooth talked his way through that and impressed some people. I'm like, he's known how to work a room forever. This ain't new. No. He's always known how to do this. So I think he's selling a new opportunity at Auburn. I think he's selling the opportunity to build something. He's selling the fact that he thinks he's going to be there for a long time, and he's got a lot of people behind him. And when the Auburn power brokers all get on the same path, heading in the same direction, and not playing tug of war with each other, it can be a bit of a monster. And it's the first time in a long time that I think the majority of the power players are all working hand in hand, and you're seeing the benefits of them. And you flip a 5-star from Georgia, you flip a 5-star from Alabama, you get another 4-star that commits, you get an offensive lineman out of the portal from a Big Ten school, all in essentially 4 or 5 day span. It's they're going to continue carrying that momentum. They got another shot at another 5-star this weekend and another one in September, I believe. So it's impressive what he's done so far, but you still got to go win games.
Final couple questions for Cole Cubelic. You can hear him on the radio and online, WJOX. He's on 7 to 10 with Greg McElroy, and of course online, lots of places. And of course, you see him regular on TV everywhere you go. He and McElroy, he's making McElroy look good like all offensive linemen do for quarterbacks. But anyway, that's that. So the standard thing is, okay, LSU is going to win the West. Maybe Nick challenges. Georgia's going to three-peat. That's what we came up with from Media Days. Do you agree with that? And if so, why? And if not, why?
I would pick LSU to win the West right now. I would say that Alabama is essentially neck and neck. I would lean LSU because they have more proven playmakers. They have more proven commodities with what Harold Perkins showed he can do defensively last year, with what Malik Neighbors and Kyron Lacey have shown that they can do at wide receiver. That offensive line has essentially six guys that have started games that are back, and they don't have to spend the first 4 or 5 weeks trying to get that group to gel and figure out who's going to be where. Mason Smith returns on that defensive line, who is an absolute monster, next to Mekhi Wingo, who had a great year last year. And the quarterback experience probably helps me lean LSU just a little bit more as well. I think Alabama will be a little bit more by committee this year. We've seen Devontae Smith. We've seen different guys defensively, whether it's Quentin Williams, Jonathan Allen, Reuben Foster, whoever it is, guys that can take over games, Mika Fitzpatrick. But I think this will be a team who wins more by committee. They're very talented at receiver, but they just don't have that guy that has starred yet. They're very talented at running back, but it's 4 or 5 of them. They're going to have to decide which one. I think Tyler Booker is the best guard in the SEC. That offensive line should be better than it was a year ago because I think they'll dedicate – kind of what we were talking about with Florida, buddy. Tommy Reese is going to come in and say, they'll call duo, and they're going to run duo. They'll call inside zone. They're going to run inside zone. It's not going to be as quarterback-centric where – he has the ability to pull it and throw it. He has the ability to pull it and run it, or he can spit it out to one of the backs out of the backfield. I mean, it's going to be, hey, guys, we're running the football here. And I think Alabama got away from that mentality a little bit the last few years. Yeah. Defensively, you got the best corner in the SEC. You got the best interior defensive lineman in Jaheim Otis that's going to be there, and a couple other guys that are ready to emerge. And I think Kevin Steele will be a little less aggressive than Pete Golding was, and that'll help them play a little more complimentary football.
Good run now. Of course, there's a laydown for Georgia. Their schedule is not very difficult, and looks like Kirby's setting up a three-peat. What do you think?
It's tough for me to imagine some of these teams in the East not only catching Georgia, but going past Georgia this year. And I have some concerns with Georgia, but those are on the Georgia plateau of concerns, which are different. Like you're shopping at a different shelf. You might be shopping at a different grocery store. You're breaking in a new quarterback. Okay. The interior defensive line doesn't look like it's going to be as dominant as it has been. They have the 2 best safeties in the league and an edge defender that looks like he's going to be a star, and two of the best off the ball linebackers in the league. So I think they'll be okay there. And then like we said with quarterback, and maybe they're not the typical Georgia at tailback, but you have this unicorn in Brock Bowers, one of the best receiving corps in college football. I think he's the best
player of football. He's on my Heisman ballot. He's I think one of the top 3 players in football, in my opinion.
I don't know why more people don't want to have that conversation. Like everybody's comfortable having the tight end conversation, but I do believe we should put him in that category of best football player in America just because he does so many things well. Yeah, and then the offensive line will be dominant again. Ratledge and Van Pran and Mims, those guys coming back there. Stacey Searles has got those guys rolling. So I just don't have a lot of concerns. And like you said, the schedule, not a lot of heavy lifting. Some of that is because Georgia's that good. If we put Auburn on that schedule, we'd still say, ooh, man, I don't know. If we put Missouri with that schedule, we'd say, 6 or 7, 8 possible, but not, they're not going to run the table. So part of that's because Georgia's really good, but I think there's room for Kentucky to improve. I'm not as down on Florida as a lot of other people are. Tennessee has a chance to be really explosive on offense, but I think inconsistencies will show up at times. So it's kind of wide open after Georgia, and I'm interested to see if anybody can sort of pull away from the pack and at least be in the mix late in the season.
Yeah. We'll see what Florida does. I wrote a column the other day saying, excuse me, when did Florida become Vanderbilt? You're picking – don't sleep on that because this is the kind of team – and I think McElroy said it during media days. They could be 3-9 or 9-3. You just don't know what that's going to happen. Great stuff, Cole. Will you come back on again with us?
Always. I'm surprised you can write. I'm amazed to hear that.
Sometimes I wonder about that. Good to see you, my friend. Not sure I can. Thank you very much. Great stuff. Cole Cubelic. Get you again sometime soon. Thank you. All right. He's one of the best. I like his analysis. Standing by in the orange and blue room, we got David Whitley and his musings. We're going to do this right now. Don't go away in case we lose you. Turn off the Wi-Fi and see if we can get back to this and get things synced up properly here. I want to tell you about our sponsor, our good friends at TitanMRI.com. Titan MRI is worth the short drive to Gainesville. No insurance, no problem. You can pay with cash or card with same-day scheduling available. You can start feeling better today. because Titan MRI is North Central Florida's premier independent MRI facility. Come see why hundreds of patients are visiting our Gainesville location from Ocala, Marion County, and the Villages. That's TitanMRI.com. All right, folks, here he is, the whimsical one. A regular Tuesday, came into Bentley tonight, I think, and he's got his caviar, so he's happy. He should have good things to say. Say hello to David Whitley. What's up, David?
I tell you, I hate to follow Cole because A, he knows so much more than I do, and B, he's got a much better microphone.
Yeah, he does. That's a cool looking mic, isn't it? Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like to talk a little X's and O's, only I don't know how to talk, so I get someone who does. He's really good at what he talks about, and we rarely talk about the offensive line. Us writers, we're writing about the quarterbacks and wide receivers. So I know you've been out to practice a few times. I've got a couple of notes here today from our intrepid reporter, Kyle Curtis, and I want to just talk for a second about what he said, and we'll get back to some of these subjects that you've been writing about and talking about this week regarding the Florida Gators and practice and what's going on. A bit of excitement out there. Here's some things that happened today, according to Kyle. Brandon Spikes, we know about, joined the coaching staff now with linebackers coach Jay Bateman. He's, of course, going to school. He'll be working with the linebackers. No surprises on Florida's opening day injury report. No new names there today. And offensive lineman Micah, help me pronounce this, Mazkua, who's the guy they're all talking about out there as being a really big addition to the offensive line. Participating in first offensive line drills, and he had shoulder surgery. Tight end Jonathan Odom had a torn ACL in December, was working with his unit, running some routes and wearing a non-contact jersey. Offensive lineman Cameron Waits, Achilles. Caden Jones, some injury unknown, remained out due to injuries. Wide receiver, I can never say this guy's name, Ty Chiokao Bowman. I'm just going to go with Ty Bowman. And Eugene Wilson, who I really think is going to be a terrific player, were non-contact jersey but participated in the drills. So anyway, defensive lineman had a strong start, earned consistent praise from coaches, et cetera, et cetera. Tyreek Sapp stood out, sophomore, received praise. And then quarterback Devin Moore worked out at full speed after recovering from a shoulder injury. That's today's practice report, brought to you by our sponsors, Titan MRI and Melville Law. David, what have you been hearing about this practice? What's going on out there?
Well, again, we're seeing a sliver of 15 minutes out of a 2+ hour exercise.
Right.
So if you take it that 15 minutes is representative of the whole 2 hours, the defensive line looks really strong. It's the offensive line they got to get, I think, and again, is it Mazuka? I've heard it both ways. It's pronounced like bazooka, but with an M, or not, Maskua. Whatever it is, they're going to count on him, and they need him to recuperate from that shoulder injury in the next few weeks, because he'll be an anchor that they need. Everybody, is it Mertz? Is it Miller? Blah, blah, blah. I mean, Mertz is obviously, is the QB, and so no real surprises anywhere. I mean, a lot of guys out there are making, on defense, a lot of young guys seem to be making some impressions. But again, it's funny. I make a habit of going through and reading the various websites on what they saw on their practice reports, and you get pretty much the same thing. Somebody goes in and they can concentrate on one little thing and say, all right, I saw, RJ Moten looking good, because, you got to concentrate on him, but you only have 15 minutes. So, it's really, you're just almost just throwing spaghetti against the wall. You're not going to see anything really drastic, because I still think that they know, all right, this is the media time, 15 minutes. Let's vanilla it up. Don't do anything. And then when they leave, it's okay. Now let's start installing stuff.
Let's fist fight.
Right. That's what I would do.
Yeah.
But so far it's no real surprises. The injuries are nothing new there. I mean, when you hear about the one thing you don't want to hear this time of year is what like the Dolphins have heard the last week, with with Jalen Ramsey, the number one guy, just in a non-contact drill, suddenly going down and tearing up his knee and being out a few months. What was a couple of years ago that happened to Jason Marshall, I think something. And so, it's almost like no news is good news when it comes to that.
Yeah. I was talking to Shane Matthews this morning on his show. He had a good report because he gets to see everything. He stays for the whole practice. He was talking about how he felt sorry for the media boys having to crunch and everything in 12 minutes. They stay for the whole practice, and he kind of scoffed at the report about that Dejon Johnson. His name's got to be Mustard, doesn't it? And having 2 picks. And he said, I was there for the whole practice. I don't remember seeing the picks.
Right.
And I'm not sure if it wasn't the third-string quarterback that threw them. Whatever. So I don't know. But you never know. But, hey, I said, Shane, we don't get to see that stuff, dude. We don't get to see all the good stuff. So, but you take little, like I said to Shane, we get crumbs. We just get crumbs, and then we have to bake a cake out of it and do something. So it's hard for my brothers and sisters on the beat there. So I feel sorry for them. So I'm taking away a few things here just by osmosis. And it is a hold on, let me just tell Brendan where his package is. He's looking for it.
Brendan has lost his package. Always a problem.
Yeah. He's looking for his FedEx packages.
Oh, that package.
He came over here. Yeah. Looking for it. I put it aside. Okay. So, I'm coming away with the bits and pieces. And to me, I'm kind of like you. I don't necessarily listen to all the press conferences, but I pick up key phrases and key words every now and then. And it seems Austin Armstrong is getting to be a favorite of a lot of people. Shane Matthews absolutely loves him. He's the new defensive coordinator. He has so much enthusiasm. It's what? Is he 30 yet? 30 years old? I'm not sure if
I don't know if he's hit the big 3-0 yet or not.
Shane says I don't think he's 29. But anyway, he's a young, enthusiastic guy, and he talked about what his description was something like, I love the relentless pursuit. I love blah, 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 and the joy, playing football with joy. Now that struck me. Playing the game of football with joy is not something we hear a lot about this day in the age of the portal and NIL, whatever. It is something I think that we need to return to. And I also think that one of the things that Billy is smart about is that you got to transcend all the bright, shiny things. Of course, we're going to want to, we want to talk about the big NIL deals and the 5 stars. But if you can solicit the kind of players that you can build on who are there for the long haul and the buy-in and care about their fellow players and build camaraderie like Billy appears to be doing with some of these players that they're talking about. And then you can put them together socially, like the grill in the Ville that they had, but they talked about how much fun it was. And Shannon Snell, who did his 6th one of these, said this is the best one ever. You're building something on a bond that teams are made of, David. That's what it is. And so I think, and I heard a few guys talking about that. So there's something bubbling up there. I'm not going to start predicting great things. But to me, it's like Billy's building it to last, right? He's not looking for, so he wins 7 games this year or whatever. I think that's fine, and you're building for something next year, and I think they could have something special, David.
Yeah, I lost you there for a sec, but I did the terms that you mentioned. They did strike me, when they had the big car wash on Sunday, bringing up Austin and Rob Sale and Billy and because that word joy is not one you hear a lot thrown out at just press conferences. And he said, I wanted to be joyful, and for a minute I wanted to check and see if I had, the Sunday morning, if I had taken the wrong turn and ended up in church, because that sounds like the kind of thing that I would be hearing at 11 o'clock from a preacher. But it gets back to the whole esprit de corps. And you mentioned the camaraderie. And that's another thing that Billy was stressing is, how, they have teams that they've broken it down to, and they have tests, and you're supposed to know, every guy's, not just their name, their first and last name and their hometown. And it's not just the players; it's the other people in the building. He mentioned all the people down to even the custodial staff. People that make the whole program, the product. And in camp, he said we're going to put guys together that don't play together, that don't know each other. Just to get to know it, because I don't want two offensive linemen rooming together because they know, they're around each other all the time. They won't find out anything about them.
Right.
And I want an offensive line with a DB, just to establish that thing and establish relationships and know about it. It's sort of funny. He was talking about that and said, maybe we ought to do that. Yeah, I ought to have that here one time. And I got to thinking, that's right. I know the names of like 10 of my colleagues, but I don't know where their hometown. So immediately afterwards, I asked Matt Baker where he's from, and try to get to know Matt Baker a little bit more. So in case he's from Kokomo, Indiana originally. But just it's an interesting way to go about it. And to sort of as you said, it's not the kind of thing that is tangible. And it's, like you're not going to put 5 stars next to this thing, but it's the kind of thing that does pay off. When
the little things are big things. That's what it is. The little things are big things. And just a point while I remember it, because I have to get this out before I won't remember it. It's like somebody said the other day. I finally walked into a room and remembered why I was there. Well, it was the bathroom. And so anyway, but the thing is that this team building, consensus building, whatever. I go back, and I hate to reference Urban because people don't like him, I know, but I know a lot about Urban. When he went to Bowling Green, he held a couple of team meetings. He looked around the room, and he looked at the cliques. There was a Samoans. There are a lot of Samoans at Utah, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. There were African Americans, there were the white guys, the Hispanics. They're all together in cliques. He looked at that and said, no. We're going to come back in here tomorrow, and we're going to break this up. You guys are going to sit together and get to know each other. And it reminds me of my fraternity. I was a member of the Phi Delta Theta, and one of the things as a pledge you have to do is learn the names of all the brothers and their hometowns. And if you don't know them, you get whacked. So this is kind of building identity, not to the level of what Northwestern did and their hazing, which is but I think there is a certain way to build that. And it's like, I was never in the armed services, but those of you who were know, is that when you bond, it's a circle of wagons mentality. And we're all in this together kind of stuff. So anyway, yeah. So all right, so let me get your take on this. There's a lot of talk about the stadium. Scott Strickland was talking on Steve Russell's show about that because Shane Matthews and I said today we're going to start a T-shirt. It says, "Don't mess with the swamp." Okay, so when he talks about the options, and he has to do that, I understand, and he explained it really well on Steve Russell's show. That look, we want to do this, and we want to do the bathrooms and all that sort of stuff, and utilize our space better, whatever. But he said, and as one of the options, if nothing else works out, would be to move the stadium. Well, I said, stop right there. Not happening. Shane and I have pledged we'll lay down in front of the tractors. We'll let that happen, and we're going to sell T-shirts. Don't mess with the swamp. Okay? Now, that's going a bit overboard, but you've read all about it. You've heard all about it. The thing that scares me when you start presenting options is sometimes they become real. And I've seen this rodeo. So give me your take on that.
Yeah. It's funny. If you say that would be the ultimate messing with the swamp when you basically drain it and put it somewhere else.
Yeah.
I just can't fathom that they would do that. And I almost think that Scott is keeping it out there because there's a 0.001% chance it might happen, 1 in 10,000 where everything else goes wrong. But also I think he almost wants to keep it out there to keep people sort of on edge. So when it doesn't happen, whatever they do next, they'll say, "Oh, that's a great idea." It's at least it's in the same building. As long as they don't, it's in the same place. Thank God we're not moving it because now everything after that is going to be gravy. So it's just unfair. There are so many hurdles that would have to overcome when you just find the spot. There's nowhere near that except perhaps the golf course where they would build it, and that comes with all sorts of problems. But beyond that, you'd have to build it. I mean, think of downtown Gainesville, or anywhere near the campus in that footprint. You'd have to build at least, I'm trying to, the next biggest plot of land, maybe out Archer Road somewhere. That's fans. The college football experience is going to campus and looking at the old buildings and going to the same place you've been tailgating with the same people for the last 20, 30, 40 years. And you are hard pressed to find a college with a stadium that is not on campus that is, there are, USC, of course, but people use that, but, it's, where, certainly not in the SEC or any, other than I'm trying to, the Rose Bowl for the USC and UCLA, I guess USF plays in the Raymond James, although they're building a stadium. To me, college football games are supposed to be played on college campuses, and if it's not played at that spot, there's nowhere else on campus that they can put it. That's for sure.
Well, look, you're right, David. You're right, and I love the comment from a guy named Brian today on Shane's show, because they're going to build all these skyboxes. You know what they're going to do? They're going to get all these expensive seats, and and so people can be comfortable, have air conditioning, and all that. The rich people, And I like Brian's comment. He said, "No, part of the deal is going to sit with the 90,000 of your friends and sweating. That's part of the deal in the swamp. It's built down in a hole. It's hot. It's noisy. It's miserable. That's part of what the swamp is, which makes it one of the most iconic athletic facilities, never mind college football, in the world. The swamp is, and you would never, ever, ever think about moving that stadium out of there. I don't care what they have to do." And I don't think they will, but just the mention of it kind of gets me concerned and upset because I don't want to see it. I'm making a T-shirt, and Robert says he'll buy some. I told Shane, make the T-shirts, I'll buy 10. Don't mess with the swamp, man. Let's get it down there right now and get it figured out. All right, so Dave, go ahead.
Swamp is.
Yeah, exactly, swamp. David Whitley, he's a writer and a good one. He's a very different kind of viewpoint for those who have not seen him. Some of you folks are new to YouTube, maybe not as familiar with David. He's been doing this a long time. He's got a keen eye and knows how to turn a phrase. Knows a good story. And so what have you been writing about David lately?
Let's see. Wrote one on Big Des Watson the other day.
Apparently he hit the sleds today. A thunderous shot today. They're talking about made it sound like a thunderclap almost.
Yeah. I mean, everybody knows Dez's story. He's literally the biggest man on any campus in America. The question is, what's Dez weighing in at when he comes to camp this year?
420.
Is it 420?
I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Yeah, I know because I went to a thing he was doing Saturday out of Citizens Field, a community thing with kids, and cornered him there and I said, "So what are you weighing?" He says, "Not letting on." He says, and in a way it matters, but it doesn't, because he is such a unique special. I mean, he's unlike anything anybody's seen. When I first heard about it, you hear a 400-pound kid, you think a massive fat tire around his belly, just a sort of a slob. You got you've seen the TV show My 1,000-Pound Sisters and that kind of thing, where he's like the human reality show. But his agility for somebody that big is just unbelievable. And if he went on the most strict diet and was just a disciple to Jenny Craig or Weight Watchers, he would still weigh 380, 390. He's just that type of human being. His thighs and his butt are just massive. But the way he moves, he is the ultimate, immovable object in the middle. But the issue with him has been stamina, because defensive linemen were down, and last year it was a real issue because they didn't have any depth on the defensive line. Javon played like 600 some odd snaps, and I think and Dex played 421 snaps. You don't need him in there 29, 32 snaps a game. They got to rotate those guys and keep them fresh, especially him. So they're hoping that between the two transfers coming in and the young kids coming up, that they will be able to, that you will get, less of Dez is more of Dez. You get him in there 25 snaps.
Yeah.
Then he does it. And, it's an interesting story because, everybody loves the big guy, and I hate to use the term fat. But
he's got good. Listen, he's got good feet. He really does, and he plays the game with enthusiasm, which I like. Mm-hmm. I love that about him.
Yeah, very nimble. More than you'd ever suspect a guy could be able to do that. And of course, he became sort of like a real folk hero last year when he against South Carolina when he stripped the ball and suddenly he's carrying.
Right.
He's running down the field and he
stiff
gives you a
high
stiff arm.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah,
I love that.
Spencer, and became that launched 1,000 memes and everything else. It was great. It was it was the most memorable 8-yard run I think in Florida Gator history.
It was. David, let me ask you a couple of quick questions before Loren comes on with his trivia. These are kind of hit and miss stories. Chris Collinsworth made the Hall of Fame of sports broadcasting. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't like Chris for some reason. I think he's terrific. I like the fact he's willing to be critical of whoever, including his own team if that's necessary. He's the only NFL analyst other than John Madden to receive a sports Emory for outstanding sportsman analyst, and he's won 9 times over the course of his career. 9. So congratulations to Chris Collinsworth. I think that's great. And finally, this thought before we go to Loren. Tiger Woods is going to join the PGA Tour board in a concession to player demands. They've all gone to the commissioner and said, this ain't cutting it. We're not like this. There was a bit of a revolt. And apparently, with the addition of Tiger, players will now outnumber independent directors, giving them the final say in the tour's plan to form a partnership with Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund. I like that, don't you?
Oh, yeah, it was a good move because, he's Tiger Woods. So he obviously carries a lot of cachet, but there obviously was quite a revolt among players who were just hoodwinked into this deal. And I think that Monahan, the commissioner thought, well, I can quell this rebellion and it'll simmer down, but it wasn't simmering down. And they just didn't feel they had a voice. And now they feel that, all right, Tiger is our voice because Tiger knows the issues and he is one of them. And when when Tiger speaks in that board, people are going to listen. And especially if they now outnumber the muckety mucks on the board. And so, it's great. And plus, Tiger wants to stay involved and he's not, he can't play that much anymore, but this will, I think, in a way it'll get his competitive spirit going because he's got a lot
invested, man. He invested everything. He's why they're where they are right now, in my opinion. So let me do this, David. Let me do this quick commercial from Meldon Law. We'll bring in our buddy Loren Meadows. We'll have the trivia, and we'll finish up with a little fun right here in the Buddy Martin Show. Thank you. All you people go out there, subscribe to the Buddy Martin Show on YouTube. That's the future. Go to YouTube and subscribe. We appreciate that. Of course, you'll hear us here Monday through Friday now. Pretty soon with the Friday show, Urban Meyer and the best Fridays in football. So stand by. All right? Here's our friends from Meldon Law. You guys have done so well in your business. But take me inside the organization and tell me, what's it like when dad and son kind of get in there and don't agree on things?
Well, there's 2 dynamics going on, right? It's lawyer to lawyer and father to son. So sometimes, when the father and son stuff goes on, you have to take a break for a minute. You just say,
take a beat. Yeah.
I'm gonna go get some coffee. I'll be right back.
That's better than shouting. Shouting doesn't work. No, for sure. Well, being in my business, I have my son Brendan also worked with me. And it's been a test for both of us. I pity him. It's like I pity Carrie having to work for you. But bottom line is, it's an honor. Really.
I know your son, and he's a great kid. Yeah. And we're both very blessed to have our kids work with us. And look, it's a blessing in most regards. Sometimes it's challenging. However, there's a level of trust that you have with family that you can't replace with anybody else.
And thanks, Jeffrey. Right over to Loren Meadows. He joins the program tonight with us right here on YouTube and Facebook. Coach Meadows on with us again. He was on with us on Saturday. What's up, Loren? How you doing, buddy?
How you guys doing this evening?
Good. How are you?
Just Lawrence about to
Long
load
time
up.
no see.
Lawrence about to load up the truck and give away a whole bunch of stuff, right, Lauren? You're
Yes, sir.
back your truck up to Spurs and just load it up. Yeah, we've been doing this a while, and so Lauren's got his question. Before we go to that, you've been at practice today. You saw some things, Lauren. We talked to David about that. I see some of your filings, some of your videos. I've looked at some of them. Just little glimpses. Shane Matthews is talking today about how he felt sorry for the media boys having to jump out there for 12 minutes. But little glimpses. I like seeing certain things. Like I've been noticing Jaquavion Frazier's. He looks like he's put on some muscle. He looks confident. He was been injured. He's tall. He's fast. He's got good hands. I think this guy's going to play, Lauren.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Jaquavion Frazier's from right there in your backyard, down there from Dunellen, and yeah, I mean, definitely a solid young man, stand up, a lot of character. And I know when Billy Gonzalez was here a couple years ago, he really thought a lot about Jaquavion Frazier's, and we've seen him make some plays. I mean, the kind of ball that he couldn't drop against Utah, but he also had a big catch against Texas A&M last year at their place. And actually, it was a play he got hurt on and kind of sidelined him for the rest of the season. But, definitely a young man that knows where the weight room is, as we like to say. And, I think he could be poised for a really big season. I think that, with Billy Gonzalez and both Billy Napier, probably expecting a lot more in the perimeter blocking game. He's an excellent blocker on the perimeter and things like that. So yeah, I mean, he's definitely somebody that seems to be out there practicing with a lot of confidence, seems to be engaged, and could really benefit from Billy Gonzalez's return.
Yeah, and Shane said this morning that he likes the fact that he saw the receivers in the variety of sizes. He likes some short guys, fast guys, tall guys, bigger guys, which is what he liked from the naked eye. So I don't know. David was busy watching the big guys, big dads and people in practice, and we're fascinated with that kind of stuff. I mean, look, I have somewhat of a trained eye, not as well as yours, Lauren. I've seen a little football in my day, and I've seen a little body language I like. That's all I can tell if I haven't been to practice yet. Hope to go soon. And just watching the videos as I'm seeing, I see all the receivers running the same form when they run routes. The little crow hops, little steps, little things they do. They look like they've been taught that. They look disciplined, don't they, Lauren?
Yes, sir, they do. And like I said, once again, I've made no secret of how much I admire the work that Billy Gonzalez does. And you could just see a little different tempo, a little different charge in the receiver group. And, I think that, as much as people want to have a kind of a, be down on Graham Mertz, so to speak, I mean, the ball really comes out of his hand. He looks accurate. He's got a nice delivery. And, he kind of steps up there with a lot of command. And, I think the combination of the two is going to be key. And, ultimately, you'll see kind of, Kadarius Toney was kind of a crash and burn guy. You had guys like Van Jefferson and Josh Hammond who were a little smoother. I mean, your body's going to fit, what kind of routes you run. But ultimately, the thing about it is being in the right place, being there when you're supposed to be there, and delivering the mail, as I like to say. So, I think that all those things, with that combination and the second year in the system, I think is gonna bode well. I mean, definitely, going to be young at receiver, but I mean, when you really look at the talent and what could be there, I think they've got some things to be positive about.
David, what's your take on the return of Billy? I see J.D. Wolf says he's been known for developing elite talent, brings a lot to the table. What's your take on the return of Billy Gonzalez to the Florida Gators for the third time?
Yeah, well, I mean, every time he's been here, he's produced. Everywhere he's gone, he's produced. And, it was sort of interesting, that you brought in a guy with the bona fides like that everybody loves. And then You bring in Austin Armstrong, who everybody thinks is going to be good, but you don't know. So it's sort of interesting thing. You just, if you're a Gator fan, you hope that Austin Armstrong turns out to be as good a coach as Billy Gonzalez has proven to be. But I mean, yeah, as Loren said, it's like a lot of positions you don't know. There's just a lot of question marks going in, because there's so many guys who haven't played, but there's so much potential that you see there. But with the young guys that he mentioned. But again, like Frazier's, that there are jobs there for the taking, and it is interesting that as Shane said, you got it's not an assembly line. You got a variety of bodies out there, and you need that these days. Yeah. I mean, it's sort of they're just maybe I need to go look at the receiver because they are fun to look at. I mean, this is the sizzle out there.
Well, Loren's a former wide receiver. That's why he likes to look at him. He thinks he can go play again. That's why he wants it. He wants to suit up. So, but no, listen, he's got a trained eye. Hey, look, I find myself liking things about this team. I don't want to wax poetic or get over my skis or whatever. But I'm just hearing people talk about things like there's been a landslide almost of people supporting Graham Mertz. Shane said today his coaches and friends that coach other schools and when the pros really like Graham Mertz. And we've heard, why did he go to Alabama and why didn't he go to Alabama? Because Nick Saban wanted him. Urban Meyer wanted him, told me he wanted him, would like to have gotten him committed, but he went to Wisconsin. Why? Like Shane says, I got to ask him that someday. Why Wisconsin, that hotbed of quarterbacks? Can you name more than two in the history of, and that includes one who stayed there for a year, came from NC State.
Yeah, Russell Wilson.
Yeah, from place for the Broncos.
Yeah,
so
Russell
anyway, yeah, right, Russell Wilson. Right. So Loren, and in our little wager SEC poker game we played the other night, you and me and was it Franz and Ben, was it? I said we're going to auction off the number of wins, right? And say, okay, yes, let's start out with say who wants to buy 5.5? Okay, somebody bought it. Who wants to buy 6? Bought. Who wants to buy 6.5? Bought. Who wants to buy 7? Bought. And then who wants to buy 7.5? Stop. Nobody said a word. But one fool went to 7.5. David, who do you think it was?
Oh, I think he's probably the guy with the Gator bait hat on.
That's him. I went to 7.5.
Wilson F. Martin. That guy.
Wilton F. Martin, yeah. And the thing, and look, I didn't mean to get over my skis. How about those Rays? They went 5-2, beat the Yankees again. But I'm not going to let myself get too. But even Cole Cubelic, who was very good and earlier in the program, had analysis on this team about running the football, and he agreed with me that, as we said, Loren, all season, you control the football, you control the clock, you control the game, you even hit some downs back on defense, and it means a lot. He thinks maybe people are underrating this Florida team, but he says the schedule is the killer. But there's 2 games in the first 6 that they're going to have a tough time with, probably, but I think are winnable. Utah and Tennessee. To get past one of those, now we're playing what if, they get to 6 games, guess what? The back half looks awfully difficult, but they could have 5 wins in their pocket. Can you believe that? Could they be 5-1? Maybe that's asking a bit much, but my point is this is not undoable.
No, it's true. They could be, because you're right. There are games that look daunting, but they're all winnable, especially early on. Utah is tough, but that stadium only seats 50 some odd thousand, low 50s, I think.
Right, Eccles. It's a nice little stadium. I've been there.
Yeah, it's nice, but they're not going to be going into. It's not like going into Tiger Stadium on Saturday night or anytime Saturday.
They're not the Green Bay Packers under Vince Lombardi either, by the way. Just so you know.
Right. Yeah, Utah's always well coached, and they're not going to beat themselves, but it's easy enough to draw up a scenario where they could win that game. Sure, if all these things that we think might be okay, if they get the running game going and Mertz, sure it could happen. Then there are a couple of gimmies in that first month, and so if and I don't even say they steal one because I don't think it would be stealing if they beat.
Hey, it's August. We can do what we want to right now. But
Yeah.
all right, so let me get to one little story effect. Excuse me. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I just say sure. It could be it could be a very good month. I mean, but you don't want to come out of there 2-2 with just the 2 wins over the Cupcakes with that second half schedule. So
meanwhile, we're learning about some of these players, and I'm lucky to have Austin Barber on my show last week. Really like this young man. He's going to be a fierce player, left tackle for many years at the school, and this guy's going to be good, really good, NFL good. And there are others on the offensive line. But today I heard a story. I'm sorry to say I don't have the sound bite because it was really heartwarming and interesting. It was heard. I'm not a big Dory Nakwa fan. I mean, he's okay. But he had substituted for Feinbaum today, and I didn't see the show. But he had Justice Boone on the program, okay? So who is Justice Boone, right? Loren, who's Justice Boone? A defensive player?
Justice, yeah.
He can play. He's a pretty good player. At the end of the season, he made some plays last year. But the story that he told was so heartwarming and so good that I wish I had the soundbite, which I'll try to get tomorrow. But, Loren, you heard it. Tell him what you heard Justice Boone say.
Yeah, Dory Noka was filling in for Paul Feinbaum, and they had Justice Boone on, and asked the typical questions. How do you like Billy Napier? And he was very positive about his coach, said he loved the coach and things like that. But then Dory kind of pivoted and asked him. He said, "Every time I look, I see you holding a camp for kids in Gainesville, holding a camp in your hometown of Sumter, South Carolina, and just where does that come from?" And he told the story that his name is pronounced, it's spelled, pronounced Justice, but it's spelled Just Us.
Justus.
Justus. And so as his mother was in the delivery room, basically she delivered the young man without his paternal father. And it was just she and him in the room. And, she was kind of a single mother alone. And she said, she named him Just Us because it was just those two in the room. It was just those two. And basically the way she has raised him is to kind of have that humility, to have that kind of passion and sympathy for others. He talked about being involved in the Ronald McDonald House, which we're all familiar with, has been a charitable foundation for years, and just, how he wants to continue to give to others because that's kind of something that his mother imparted on him when she named him, was just that passion and care for others, and to be something bigger than a football player and use your platform to help others. It was really, really interesting, refreshing take.
And heartwarming, very heartwarming, I thought. Yeah,
very heartwarming. And, and buddy, you and I both have remarked that, we both had our fathers in our lives, pretty much all of our lives, and that kind of thing. And, you wonder what these young men miss sometime with, having a father figure around. I think there was a stepfather involved in Justice Boone, but you don't know when that occurred. So, you just, it kind of hit me because, my father's death is still kind of fresh, but you kind of take notice of having positive men in your lives, and I'm sure there was a coach or even Billy Napier may have filled that void for Justice Boone, but definitely an interesting story about his name and how that motivates him to help others.
Yeah, not to bring up his name again, but that's why Urban had a Thursday family night where everybody came and the players brought their mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, girlfriends, whatever, because some of the kids never had a home, never had a male figure in their house. And I think that's a story, David, I can get behind those kind of things. I love that story. Mm-hmm. Like I love Derek Wingo. At the time we had him on a couple of times. His mom followed him all over the country. He was going to go to Penn State and came here. She moved from South Florida all the way up to Gainesville, started a cupcake shop in Gainesville. David, you should go out there and eat some cupcakes and talk to her sometime. She's quite a lady. And he was supporting it because he wanted to be near his mom. His mom that's the kind of dedication of parents and things. They didn't have any money. They're just trying to make a living. So these are the wonderful stories why I like NIL when it goes for things like that and helps people. So, all right, it's trivia time. David, we'll make David eligible to see if he can win. Stand by, here it is.
Loren Meadows with Gator Bait Media coming to you live from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill with Tuesday Night Trivia. Who is Florida's career leader in interceptions? Is it A, Fred Weary, B, Kewan Ratliff, C, Ahmad Black, or D, Joe Hayden? Be the first to answer, and you'll be entered into our monthly drawing for swag and other prizes from Gator Bait Media and Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Also, don't forget the second anniversary of Spurrier's Gridiron Grill on August the 14th from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. Proceeds to benefit the Ronald McDonald House of North Florida. With Gator Bait Media, this is Loren Meadows.
All right, good job there, LM. There you go. There's the question, answers. I think I know. Do you think you know, David?
I'd be guessing.
All right, so some of the guesses are coming in.
Yeah.
I'm not going to guess because I don't want to help anybody. But so, Loren, explain what they do and what they win and how they get what happens to their name if they get it right. Okay.
So while he's on the show, Robert Turner was our winner for July. So Robert, please message us on the Buddy Martin show or my personal messenger and let us know your address. And I'll kind of explain what the prize is. So basically we have some swag and other things from Gator Bait and the Buddy Martin show. And then also they receive a piece of memorabilia or some type of prize, $50 or less from Spurs Gridiron Grill. And we've had people pick everything from cups to visors, obviously, to T-shirts. So, definitely it's a, nice thing we got going. A lot of people look forward to it, obviously. Tune in and try to be one of the first people to answer. So, Robert Turner, get with us on that, and it looks like the one answer, the first answer, actually the first two answers. Toby, I got something to send to you. You got to quit answering. So I got to send something to Ocala.
It's a cease and desist order. Stop entering.
Yeah, and then one of the other guys works for Gator Bait, so he's so we'll.
Not buying that, Jess. All right, so let's go ahead.
It's been fun. It's been fun. I think we've been doing it for about 5 or 6 months.
Yeah,
everybody's received their prize, and even had a female winner, Susan Cunningham.
Yeah, well, I wish we had more. By the way, speaking of which, tomorrow night we won't have Allie P. Wilbur. She's off tomorrow night because she has vacation. We'll have Frank Frangie filling in for us tomorrow night, along with David Moulton. For folks who are now on YouTube, I'm not sure, but maybe if Joe Blackburn's listening here, we can get a reading. I'm not sure how these people answer here, but they also are on YouTube. They may have to write us, I don't know, maybe a separate messaging to answer. So if you folks on YouTube don't know, Loren, if they can't write on Messenger here, how should they get their answers in? Should they? What should they do?
We can. Well, like I said, I think once we move ultimately to YouTube, you can come, I think, live as we go. So I think this will be one of the last days to kind of do that. And I think we're moving. I don't know when. You'll tell me when, but we're going to make a move to YouTube.
Yeah, people on YouTube.
But if I can say something,
sure.
And if I can say something publicly too, I want to publicly thank David because we kind of travel around here and things like that. But I really appreciate. Every time he and I interact, the humbleness and the graciousness that he gives me kind of as somebody new to this thing. And, I really appreciate, what you do, David, and really enjoy reading your stuff. So thank you.
Oh, sure. Well, my pleasure. It's great to have you on the beat, because,
appreciate it.
Yeah, you've been a fine addition. And he first I was just always impressed. I didn't know him at first, but I said, this guy is professional and just the way he handles his business.
Yep,
And
that's,
that's my first impression, and it's been the right impression.
Yeah, absolutely, you're right, David. Now, David's a little bit of a pain in the ass when you're not on. You just don't know. You don't hear him. I've known him 45 years. I can get him. But all right, David. Anything you're writing that we should know about, David?
Oddly enough, I was going to write one on our man Justice, because it's true what you said, because he was out at he had one of those camps on Saturday, and it was about 4,000 degrees out there. He was out there for 3 hours, but the guy he was just like a balloon with it was being airlaid. He's just crazy, and he's interacting with these kids and having the time of his life. And I asked him what to do. He says, "I want to be the guy that these kids remember, because I didn't have that guy.
Right.
I couldn't go to camp. Said my mom, as said she couldn't take me and my brother, and his brother is a big influence on him. He plays a small college ball up at Allen University, I think. But he said, he says, I just want to make a big impression on these kids. And I mean, I've never seen a guy that into it at a camp. Even in like when it's 70 degrees and cool. But I mean, it was no sun, brutal as Citizens Field. He was out for 3 hours, just going nonstop, just interacting with these kids, having the time of his life.
Good stuff. All right, who won, David? I mean, who won, Loren?
It looks like like I said, Toby Permiter won again.
You can't win again, Toby. Stop entering.
The Gator. So
nobody won.
Yes. Well, yeah. So nobody technically won tonight. I'll go back and check the feed, because sometimes what I can see here doesn't always. I have to go back and check.
Let me tell you what they got. Here's the answers. Okay. Here's what they said.
Yeah.
Robert Turner said B, whoever that was. Dan Bond he's not eligible. David Arnold said Ahmad Black. Toby, who cannot enter. Robert Turner, say no. Dan Bond, great show. Thank you very much, Ellis. Freddie Weary, Toby said again. Dan Bond, Frank is great. That's different. And then Ellis Hull said Joe Hayden. And I think that's all. So did anybody get that right? No.
But like I said, the answer is Fred Weary.
But the guy who won it is
Fred
not
Weary.
All right. Well, there you go. Oh, Toby.
We'll send it. We got some Gator bait stuff.
Let's just send the whole box of stuff to Toby. Let's call it a day. All right. Here, you want all of our stuff? Take it. What the heck?
Right.
Hey, good stuff, guys. Thanks a lot, David. Good job, David. Thanks to our earlier guest, Cole Cubelic, and of course our buddy Loren Meadows, who'll be back Thursday night for the Orange and Blue Blood show. Guys, have a good night. Great job. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys.
All right, folks, thanks for a great show tonight. Thanks for joining in. And don't forget now, subscribe to Gator Bait. Go to GatorBaitMedia.com. Check out some of the stories that we've got there, Vance Beard stuff, Loren Meadows. We got a group of people. And, of course, go to YouTube and go to the Buddy Martin Show and subscribe to it. A lot of you are doing that. We're growing exponentially. We've got an invite already from YouTube to join, whatever. We're going to go there, do more there, so join us on that. I want to tell you about my friends tonight that I always do last thing, because they're such important people. Our friends at Rent Star, such a special group of people. And my heart goes out to their family and some of the issues that are going on over there. So our best to them. I wanted to tell you about what they do. They're, among other things, they're very supportive of our community, downtown Ocala. They have a patient-centered clinical research facility downtown, Rent Star Medical Research, with strong, cutting-edge clinical research trials in Ocala for things like Alzheimer's, dementia, psoriasis, osteoarthritis, migraine, fibromyalgia, all these things that plague us in our area. This is local and national, but they want you to take part in their clinical trials because they get a better read on local, what we might need in the way of help with medications, etc. And all their stuff that they gather goes to prominent pharmaceutical and biomedical companies throughout the medical industry to help us get better health. So again, check them out. Go to rinstar.net. You can join and be part of the clinical trials. If you are qualified, you could receive compensation for time and travel. Red Star Medical Research seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. Thanks to our guests. Thanks to our sponsors, Melvin Law and Titan MRI and Red Star. On behalf of them, I'm Buddy Martin. Have a great night, folks.